Not, I'm not vouching for chunk host, but it was the easiest thing to use for today's presentation. So we've already set up a VPS here. We've already been emailed our root password, and we're ready to log into the VPS for the first time. And the IP address is here. So here I am in a terminal. This is how I set things up. You might want to do things differently. But this is using the tools that we have at our disposal today to get this done before the meetup is over. We've just been having a great time here in Los Angeles, drinking coffee, eating tacos, and now it's time to actually get to the part of the meetup that we all came here for. All right, so we are now logged into the VPS as root. The name of this server is called Juja. Any Brazilians out there? We want to hear from you. Send us your comments. And here is the install script for Virtualmin. Virtualmin is an open source control panel, similar to Plesk and cPanel. And this installer that we're about to run will install Apache, MySQL, PHP, all the things that you would need for a Drupal site, and then some, including support for Subversion repositories, mailing lists, and all that other kind of stuff. So I've just copied and pasted the very same things that are here in, on this page, webmin.com/vinstall.html. I'm just breezing right along. So now I'm running the install script. What I did was I downloaded it, I made the install script executable, and now I'm going to run it. And it just asked me if I was sure if I wanted to install it, and the answer is yes. Okay, so we don't actually know what the name of this server is going to be, so we're going to call it juja.healingtouch.org. We're not going to be setting up the DNS today, but if we were setting it up, we would take this IP address, which was emailed to us, and we would add that to our DNS tool or control panel at our web host or wherever we end up doing that, and creating an ANAME record and pointing juja.healingtouch.org to this IP address. So what the installer is doing now is it's running these commands. It just ran apt-get. This is on a Debian 6 Squeeze VPS. And it's installing all these things that we might be using on a site. So it's including things like Apache and MySQL, but it's also including ClamAV, which is an antivirus scanner. It's including support for Subversion. It's installing all these things here, but not all of these things will be enabled or will necessarily be running on our server. We can configure that down the road. For example, Postgres is not used by many Drupal developers, and we'll have the option of leaving that on or off when we finish setting up Virtualmin. In fact, this isn't even necessary for running Drupal. The Virtualmin install script is just installing itself and all the things that it needs to run, like Apache and MySQL and PHP. So in another window, I'm going to log in and install Drush. Where is it? The password is right there. Oh, can't do it while there's something else running. Of course. So that's the command to do it here on Debian, at least I believe so. I still install it the old-fashioned way, and that's what we're going to do right now. So here is the Drush project page. I'm copying the link here. Let's see, where am I? Okay, I'm still in the /root directory. I'm going to create a scripts folder. I'm downloading Drush. decompressing it, deleting the tarball. So here in this folder is the Drush executable right here. I'm going to make this executable. And now I'm going to create a symlink that points to that Drush executable and place that symlink in user/local/bin. And I always get the symlink commands backwards, so we're going to just try this trial and error. And that seems to have worked. So let's try it. Oh, PHP hasn't been installed yet, so I'm getting ahead of myself. But this does show that the drush command that I just typed actually did work. It's just that drush didn't work. For those of you following at home, we're just going to wait for this on our end here to finish up. Maybe we'll edit this video and cut the next couple minutes out. But does anybody have any questions so far? Nope. Any questions, Roger? So we're all thumbs up here. Everything's good to go. So the speed of this installation process is going to depend on a number of factors, including where your web host is located, whether your web host has a mirror of the packages for your package manager. It looks like ChunkHost is actually getting all of these from well, we don't know yet. I'm not sure it shows where it's actually getting these from. So the web host in this case doesn't have any cached copies locally, which would massively speed up this process. Right now, it's still extracting the packages that it downloaded. That's why it says extracting. Dot. I think we're going to cut these minutes out.
Skip a few dots.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So now it's configuring these different things. Oh, it's installing Virtualmin. Now that everything has been installed that Virtualmin expects to find, it's installing Virtualmin. So Virtualmin is going to be on the same server, but on a different port. So it's actually it's over HTTPS, running on a server called Miniserve. Miniserve is similar to any other web server, but it's what Virtualmin and Webmin and Usermin and Cloudmin and all those tools from that family of control panels uses to be served over HTTPS, and it runs on port 10,000, and it looks like we are good to go. So here is Virtualmin. Okay, so Virtualmin is actually a plugin for Webmin. Webmin is the open source control panel, and Virtualmin is a plugin for it. And Virtualmin lets you create virtual host configurations and databases and mailbox usernames and FTP users and all those things for specific domains and subdomains. I just call it Virtualmin. That's that's FYI. And here is the password that we got from ChunkHost. Let's not remember that. So over here in the terminal, we see that everything is done, and now we're at the Virtualmin installer, or the setup wizard. And we only have 512 megabytes on this box, so we're not going to preload Virtualmin. We're not going to run domain lookups. It means the server is going to run a little bit more slowly, but that's okay. This server is running slowly anyway. Let's not do any virus scanning. Let's not do any spam handling either. And we do want MySQL. We don't need Postgres, so these are good defaults. I'm copying the root user password to my clipboard so that I can set the root user, the root MySQL user to the same thing. This is optional. You can set it to whatever you want. Do you have a question? Okay. And this is, yeah, that's fine. We're going to be running our own DNS server called Bind. And if we wanted to, we could put in chunkhost.com ns2.chunkhost.com. Well, this actually isn't. It hasn't been set up yet, so we're going to skip this check and just go forward. And now we're done. So we've just set up Virtualmin, and let's recheck the config. We might get an error or a warning, and we'll need to do some further configuration. This is all dependent on the server image that your VPS host gave you and how it's set up. So it looks like everything just checked out just fine. So I'm going to create a virtual server. This is another word for a site, or what cPanel calls a domain. Here I'll put in juja.healingtouch.com.
.org.
.org. Did I type .com earlier as well? And then we're going to reuse the same password. I'm just going to create a Juja username. This is optional. If you don't select this, then you'll actually get a username called Healing Touch, so it's based on what the TLD is called. These are the features that are available, but we didn't actually enable virus scanning or spam filtering or anything, so we're going to leave those turned off. And we're going to set the name of our database here to juja_dev. And here are some other options. If we wanted to put this on a different IP address, we could do that here. If there was any need to change these settings, we could do that right now or go back to it later. Oops, I left that checked. So under here, same as real address, and the password is, okay. So now it's going to create, oh, what is going on? Let's just accept the defaults and get going with our demo. Database name. So I'm going to start here at the beginning. So this is the virtual server creation form, and accept the defaults for everything. So there are still some plugins that aren't installed or configured yet, and these can be done. These can be done here under features and plugins, but I'm going to skip that part for now. So we're turning off Mailman, turning off virus filtering, turning off spam filtering. Here is the password again. Oh, it looks like I was wrong. It used the name of the subdomain and not the domain name. I'm okay with being wrong as long as I learn something. And scrolling down, it is now done. The frame here on the left-hand side updated here. And if we wanted to, we could go in here and edit other things. If we went to virtualmin.com and found the Git plugin, we could install that. And then under features, there would be a new Git, what is it called? Allow Git repositories feature would be listed here. There are all these different things we can do. We can change the document root for the site right here. There are all kinds of things. So Virtualmin is both available in free and pro versions. This is the free version. And I just learned this last weekend at DrupalCamp LA that the free version allows us to use SCGID for Apache and PHP which to me that was news to me. That's actually a really good thing and worth the price of admission. Did I mention that Virtualmin is free? Yeah. Okay, so we've just set up a virtual host, a database here called Juja. We have an account here called, anyone? Juja. That's right. So we are using this name repeatedly. That's the database username. That's the Linux account username that's in /home/Juja. This is what's being used repeatedly, and just for convenience sake during this presentation, we're reusing the same password over and over and over for the root user, for the root MySQL user, and also for the Juja user. This is surprisingly common, but it's not necessarily what you need to do for your business or for your website. So now I'm going to try running Drush again. And Drush is successfully running. It is successfully installed. Let's go into what should we do now? So let's go into the Juja user. That's what I thought. So this is not using bash. And down here at the end, I'm going to change this here to bash. I've just changed the shell that the Juja user is going to be using. This is optional, but I want to do this so that I can have a tab completion and other things that are available in bash. So now I'm logged in to the server as Juja. I'm going to cd to my directory, and here's what we have. We have a public HTML directory, and that's the document root for this website. Please pardon the noise here. That's the boys in blue heading somewhere. So I'm installing Drupal. Oh, yes, user local bin drush dl Drupal. So I need to make that readable by other users. I'm just going to do this as root. We'll forget best practices and do that another time. So the reason not to do this is because now all the files are going to be written with the permissions that are only applicable for the root user. And that's not ideal for a lot of cases. It's how a lot of people run their sites. They don't want Apache to be able to write to itself. That's arguably a best practice in server security, but here we're just doing this today because it's fast. And now I'm going to move all of the Drupal stuff in here, including the .ht access. And what else is in here? There's a git ignore. Whoops. So I'm just moving everything from the Drupal directory into the actual document root, which is public HTML. Okay, so now we have a Drupal site. Everything here is as you would expect to find in the document root of a Drupal site. And the way we're going to find out if this actually worked is by going to this site in a browser. And here it is. So we used Drush to install Drupal itself, but the reason that we're seeing this page right now is because we used, in this case, the Virtualmin install script to install Apache and MySQL and all those things. And the password we're going to reuse everywhere is right here. And this is telling us that we have to do a little work first to make this site installable. Also, there are some things missing. So it's missing the GD image library. It's not finding the files directory, and the settings.php is not found. So let's go fix these things. Okay. Juja Juja files. So now the files directory is writable by the Juja user, and that means that Apache will also be able to write to this folder. And then, because we're still logged in as root, we need to install some other things too. So while we're at it, we're going to install APC. And what is it? Is it PHP GD or is it just GD?
Are you installing the apps here?
Yeah.
Probably just GD.
GD?
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Although there might be a package itself with GD, but
It'd help if I type the word install. Okay, so it's installing PHP-APC, but not GD. So PHP GD or PHP 5 GD maybe. I don't remember the last time I installed this.
just search for GD.
There it is, PHP 5-GD. Just trial and error. Works every time. And now it's installing that. And we have APC installed. We have GD installed. The settings.php is now it's where Drupal expects to find it, and it's not writable. Let's make that writable. And the file system is also writable. The file system meaning the site's default files directory. I am reloading the page, and we now have the form that we're expecting to find. The name of the database is Juja, the username is Juja, and the password is now in there. So here we go. All right. So we now have a site set up. We're going to create some more settings here. Admin, info, come on. Password, sure. Let's just use the same thing everywhere. Thanks. Okay. And let's just try to keep the load on the server as light as possible for now. I'm turning off automatic updates. This is okay to do sometimes. It depends on how you, what side of the bed you wake up on.
Right.
Oh, it really doesn't like IP addresses. How about that? Healingtouch.org. So, for those of you watching at home, we now have some weird stuff going on the screen. That's because the sun just set here in Los Angeles, and I have a program that's stripping out all the blue out of the display. There we go. The reason for that is that this program, Flux, it reduces eye strain when looking at the screen at night. It's really cool, especially when you run 2 copies of the program at once. As David at Media Temple told me, if you run 2 copies at the same time,
Black hole.
it'll strip out the green too, and the screen turns red, and it looks like you're on Mars. Oops, I need to change this style. Yeah.
I actually use that when I go to those telescope parties.
A red light?
To filter on your screen, that would actually help with that.
That would help. Yeah.
I
Do you go to a lot of telescope parties?
sometimes.
Oh, that's so cool.
People. I'm part of the LA Astronomy Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
So
go.
here's-
Oh, there you go.
Here's
Yeah.
a red light filter as well. Yeah.
Some people will actually just paste a red thing on their screen.
Yeah. You can get basically cellophane.
Yeah.
It's cheaper, that's for sure. It's called it's some kind of gel. It's a gel filter. Okay. All right. So we've just installed Drupal. Congratulations. And here's our site. So that's it, right? Are we done?
Cristofano, you're hired.
All right. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a site that we're going to give to Sasha. It's running on his VPS. We now have Virtualmin running here. No, not here. Not here. We have Virtualmin running here. So this is an open source control panel. It's free. It's modular. It's powerful. And just so you know, I don't know half the things that this thing does. There are settings and pages and buttons and forms and links that I don't necessarily know what they all mean until I go look it up. So this is Webmin. This will let you set up things like cron. So cron is here under scheduled cron jobs. Again, this is on the Webmin side of this page, not the Virtualmin side. So Webmin here has scheduled cron jobs. If you wanted to install new software, you can go to software packages and install them here. So let's go set up cron. Does anyone remember where that is? I need to get the key right here. So what I've just done here is on the status report, I'm copying this link, which includes this authentication token. So now we can run cron the Drupal 7 way. Create a new cron job. I'm going to run this as the Juja user on the file system. Remember, when we created this domain, the Juja user was created, and the entire Drupal site and everything is in the Juja user's home folder. So I'm running this as Juja. Here is the command. That's not the command. How about we do wget, and then, what is it, wget -- quiet, dev, null, and there's some other things we can put in there too, but we're going to make this run every hour. If we wanted to, we could even make it run every minute if we wanted, just by clicking all these things and multi-selecting. This would be good on a development machine, not necessarily a production machine. But what we're going to do is we're actually just going to run it every hour. So if I wanted to do it every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, or if you want to do it on odd numbers, you would select this checkbox or this radio button, and then make sure you have what you want selected here. But we're going to make it hourly. I suppose I should have actually checked to make sure this command works. I forget if -- quiet is a wget command or a curl command. And then cron just ran 9 seconds ago. So that command works just fine. So now cron is running. This is something that's surprisingly hard to do. Depending on your system, it's surprisingly easy to forget to do in the first place. And now that we have the site set up, I'm going to go back to the public HTML folder. Everything here is pretty much owned by root. I don't want that, so I'm going to change all of this stuff to Juja recursively, and we're done. So now everything is owned by Juja. So now you can actually SSH in as the Juja user. You can give that username and password combination to a client or to a friend that you're working on the site with without giving them the root username and password. Unfortunately, these accounts share the same password, so you can change